But democracy is a horrible form of government. But democracy is a horrible form of government. Welcome to CSE 103. This is our Creation Science Evangelism class, so we've already covered much of my videotape. So this whole idea that man gets to decide right from wrong. Tell me, what is the basis of a democracy? Man's opinion. The majority decides right from wrong. So when they get together in Congress or in the Senate and they're voting on a law, some people say you can't legislate morality. That's all Congress does, all day long. Every law legislates morality. There's no such thing as a law that doesn't legislate morality. You're telling somebody else what to do. That's what all laws do, okay? So don't give me this, you can't legislate morality stuff. The idea that man decides right from wrong is flawed from the start. Because if that's true, if evolution is true, if there is no God, Adolf Hitler was right. He decided, most of our folks here are Aryan, Germans, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and, we voted that everybody else ought to be killed. Hey, majority decided. What you need is a different standard to say, thus saith the Lord, is how you decide. When I was at the cabinet shop, we had a problem. We were building real fancy display cases for gay furs and Saks Fifth Avenue and stuff like that. And how's that building going to turn out? Wow. Pretty bad, if it'll turn out at all, right? So the idea is you have to have a standard. We have a National Bureau of Standards. They keep a meter stick in a carefully climate-controlled environment, and everybody makes copies of this meter stick. There's a standard meter. There's a standard foot, a standard yard, a standard pound, a standard ounce. You have to have a standard. If you say, how much are you going to give me? Oh, I'll give you a lot. Well, how much is a lot? You got to have some way to measure things. Okay, there's standards for everything. And there needs to be a standard for determining right from wrong, and that's where the Bible comes in. You see, what evolution does, it takes away the Bible. Therefore, there is no more standard. There's no longer a standard to decide right from wrong, so the majority of the people get together and vote on what they think is right and wrong. So if they vote, you think abortion's okay? Who thinks abortion's okay? Okay, majority rules. Now wait a minute. That's why democracies are so dangerous. They never can last. They will always become a dictatorship. And I get real nervous when I hear leaders in our country saying, we're going to spread democracy around the world. That'd be the dumbest thing we could do. We need to spread righteousness around the world, spread godliness, but democracy is a horrible form of government because the majority can simply vote to annihilate the minority. Now, a republic is very different. A constitutional republic is what our founding fathers gave us. We'll get into more of that later. So, scores of people have made attempts to conquer and rule the church is sovereign because God is sovereign and we're doing God's work. So under His authority, as long as we're under His authority, we're fine. If the church, though, becomes incorporated, which 99% of them have done here in Pensacola even, and all over the country, they are now no longer truly a church. You hear the preachers get up and say, the head of the church is Jesus Christ. Oh yeah? Not yours, it's not. The head of your church is the federal government. They give rights to create corporations, and why do you ask permission from them to exist? Which is why a true church, we can go off on a lot of rabbit trails here, and I'm sure we'll get 1,000 phone calls. A true church should not get building permits. They should build better than the code. Obviously, you want to be safe. We're not trying to get out of anything or trying to save any money, but you simply cannot ask permission from a county to do something that belongs to God's church. Now, people argue about that. Now, our country was started 225 years ago by people who had the attitude of Congress has the authority to print or coin money. To coin money they do. So Lincoln printed these greenbacks, which have no debt attached to them. Why should we print money and then rent it from these bankers? Why doesn't Congress just print money? Why do the bankers have to be involved at all? Well, the reason they're involved is because the United States that we are dealing with here, when it says United States on here, that's not the real United States. That's the United States Corporation. That's the corporate United States, not the real United States. We'll get into that in a minute here. But we traded our real money, silver and gold, for paper. Soon, those who control all this are going to make us trade the paper for plastic, and then the plastic for an embedded microchip. That's apparently the way it's going to go. The Bible prophesied in the last days, of course, you would have to receive a mark to buy or sell. The Greek word for mark, Sanders. That doesn't apply to me. Okay. If the term United States is written out with both capital letters, that is referring to the federal entity defined by Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. This is Washington, D.C. So, if somebody says, are you a citizen of the United States? And you sign yes under penalty of perjury, you're claiming you live in Washington, D.C. Now, Washington, D.C. is not one of the 50 states. They are under a very different set of rules and regulations. They could pass any rules they wanted in Washington, D.C. So if you're claiming you live in Washington, D.C. under penalty of perjury, well, then they're going to assume the law applies to you. If a Mexican police officer showed up at my door and said, Mr. Hovind, are you a Mexican citizen? They put a paper in front of me that says, sign this to swear you're a Mexican citizen and you will abide by the Mexican laws. Well, if I'm dumb enough to sign that paper, yes, under penalty of perjury, okay, I just put myself under Mexican law. And if you sign a paper under penalty of perjury that, yes, I'm a citizen of capital U, capital S, you just put yourself in Washington, D.C. I don't live in Washington, D.C. I don't even like to go to the place, okay? I sure don't want to live there. And I definitely don't want to be a citizen of it, okay? If it is small u, capital S, now that's one of the 50 states. I fly all over the world. I've been to 26 countries doing my seminars on creation, and more coming. Invariably, I get on the airplane, I'm flying over to the country, and they say, you got to fill out this paper to get in, you know. And invariably on that paper it says, are you a citizen of the United States? And it's capital U, capital S. So I simply take out my pen, cross out the capital U, write in the small u, and I add the words of America. Small u, United States of America. And sign it, yes, I'm a citizen of that, sure. The average guy looking at these forms, he doesn't catch what I did, I'm sure. But I don't want to claim to be a citizen of Washington, D.C. For one thing, I'm not. And if I did, I'd be under all sorts of rules that I don't want to be under. I got enough rules to obey, okay? I got enough rules right here to obey that I'm not doing all of those. I sure don't want to be under their laws. So United States citizens are actually citizens of the District of Columbia, if it's capital U, capital S. Now, if it's all capital letters, this is referring to the Philippines. See, they've tricked us by using certain words. Suppose I wrote out a document, and I said, at the very beginning, I said, in this document, the word up means down. I could do that, couldn't I? Then I can write a big, long story, and every time I say the word up, it really means down, right? At the beginning of the IRS code, it says, United States means District of Columbia. And then all the rest of this stuff is for them. It's not for me, unless I claim to live there. Oh, now it applies to me. So they're going to trap you. Somehow, they're going to try to trap you into being part of Washington, D.C., because that's what this applies to. If you want to live in Washington, D.C., or be subject to their laws, enjoy yourself. I don't want to be subject to those laws. If it's just United States, that's talking about the District of Columbia. It can be written several different ways. Capital U, capital S, or all capital letters means the same thing. It's District of Columbia. So the rich men, and the Bible talks a lot about the go to ye rich men, weep and howl for the miseries that shall come upon you. To have a one world government, a new world order. Some people get upset with me because I even mention all this IRS type stuff in my seminar. They say, you should talk just about creation. Well, it all ties together. If God's the creator, then he's the boss. Now, if you want to give yourself to become a straw man underneath, and you don't want to be under God, well, you do whatever you want. Okay? But I want to be a sovereign citizen under God.